excited you guys are here because I'm opening my doors to my one-on-one coaching program, Find Your Yes, because we all deserve to live a life that feels like a hell yes. Women are leaders, and leadership is found in entrepreneurship, leading teams within a business, volunteer organizations, your community, and at home with your family. Whether you're desiring to make a transformation into leadership or you want to up-level your skills to become a more effective leader, this program is for you. I've been leading at work and at home for over a decade, and this is what I know. It wasn't until I did the inner work that I personally needed to do that my leadership skills really improved. And that's why I created the Find Your Yes program. So you don't have to do the inner work alone. As someone who has been there, I will guide you as we work through your shadows, heal past traumas, overcome self-limiting beliefs, and watch you transform from the inside out. So if you're ready to create a life that feels like a hell yes, head over to www.jessiblois.com/contact to book a call, or head over to my Instagram @JessieBlois and send me a DM. I'm so excited to connect and to find your yes. I'm here today with Paige Gellineau, and I think this is the biggest time difference I've ever done on this podcast. She is 15 hours ahead, which means it's 8 a.m. where I am and 11 p.m. where you are. Thank you for staying up late for me, and welcome to the podcast, Paige.
Thank you so much, Jessie. I am so happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're here too. Paige and I originally met in a coaching certification program that certified us in coaching and all sorts of different modalities that we'll get into. And you have a beautiful story and a beautiful journey, and I'm thrilled to share it. Can you start off by just explaining a little bit about what you do now?
Sure. So I am a holistic life coach and a Reiki practitioner, and my coaching style specializes in hypnotherapy, EFT, NLP, which is what Jessie and I would have learned together in our coaching certification. And my mission and why I'm so passionate about what I do is because I believe, I am here to help women set themselves free from their mental limitations, to allow them to come home to themselves, to be able to live a fulfilling life, and to allow themselves to dream and experience all the beauty that this world has to offer.
I love that. I love that you said to allow women to be free. I mean, that's my ultimate goal for myself in life, no matter what I'm going after or whatever it is that I want to achieve. My ultimate goal at the end of all of it is freedom, freedom from certain emotions, freedom to experience the life I want. I mean, I could keep going, but I love that that's the word that you use. So tell us then how you got started. Tell me a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up and the family that you were raised in.
Sure. So I am originally from Barbados, which is an island in the Caribbean, and I spent the first 15 years of my life there before I moved to Canada by myself. But life in the Caribbean is very laid back. I came from a beautiful home. My parents were very supportive in the way that they were parenting my sister and I. If I can think back to like my childhood, I played tennis, I swam, I did ballet, I played jazz. My parents, sorry, allowed my sister and I to just try many different things. And, we had lots of like play dates with friends. In the Caribbean, it's very normal to drink and party very early. So
What's
I did
early?
14, 15.
Yeah. Okay.
So I did start drinking and partying at that age, and it was something that I loved to do. Every Thursday, my friends and I we would go to this, like, I mean, I call it's not even a club, but it's like a bar in literally like a backyard.
Uh-huh.
You drink like the cheapest alcohol and get drunk, sadly, but that's what I had to do back then. And we would just live it up. And yeah, at 15 years old, I made the decision. Well, my parents made the decision, and I agreed with them to move to Canada.
So I want to
to
stop you there because I have a lot of questions about that. Can you talk about kind of what was happening at 15 to make you guys come to this decision and why Canada? Because I have no geography knowledge. That's not close, right? I mean, I don't want to say that's far, and then you're like, no, it's just north. I don't know. My husband
so
always says, like, when it comes to geography, like, Jesse, shh, like, don't say anything. You don't know what you're talking about because I really don't. And I have no interest in learning about geography. So just fill me in.
yeah, that's fine. So, I mean, compared to where I live now, Canada is very close to Barbados. It was
Oh,
only 5 hours away, or it is
okay.
only 5 hours away.
Okay. So what do I know?
And why Canada? So, I am also a Canadian citizen, and the idea was that, or the intention was that when my sister and I got older, we would go to Canada to pursue a higher education, as it is cheaper for Canadian citizens. But I just left earlier. And I also have family there.
Okay.
So it's not like I was there alone. But to just answer your question directly, if I'm being very honest with you, I don't remember much around like what was going on. What I do know is that my mom told me, and this is like she told me this recently, that she could sense like a mother's, I mean, I'm not a mother yet, but a mother's instinct. She
Yeah.
could sense that something wasn't right. And I was struggling, although I didn't tell her, she could sense that I was struggling. And she knew that, if I stayed in the school that I was in Barbados, that there is a probability that I wouldn't be able to experience a life that I could potentially create for myself.
Was it
Um,
struggling academically, struggling socially, struggling with alcohol? Was it all of the above?
Struggling academically,
Okay.
and more so with like internally with, self-esteem, confidence. And according to her, she said she didn't spend so many years trying to have children for her child to suffer.
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean, that's beautiful, right? Because I am a mother and to have my 15-year-old go live somewhere else, I know is no easy decision for her. That was a completely selfless act on her end for the greater good of you. What did it feel like moving away from your family at such a young age?
I like that question. I had a range of emotions. I was excited I mean, I did travel with my parents quite often. So I was, exposed to other parts of the world, but knowing that like I was packing up, because I left by myself. So knowing that I was packing up my life in the only place I called home to experience something new, to meet new people. It was very exciting to me. If I'm being honest with you, it was only until, and this is something I remember, I arrived on, or actually, no, my mom said that leading up to the days when I actually went to the campus, because I went to boarding school, so I was living on
Okay.
school. Leading up to the start of the school semester, I was very anxious, and I was crying a lot and stuff, which is normal.
I mean, it was
Um,
so unknown, you didn't know what you were walking into. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I do remember the first day. I was lucky to get in touch with one of the students who was in my class. So we were in touch before. And
Mhm.
it was really nice. Her family welcomed me, and my mom when we arrived, and it was just also new, the campus, just how the structure of the buildings looked. It was so different to what it was back in Barbados. So
Yeah.
everything just felt like exciting, scary. It was a range of emotions.
And then how long? So you go there, doing boarding school there, and then did you stay in Canada until you graduated and you were done with your education?
Yeah, so I finished 3 years of high school. Then I went on to university. So I went to university for psychology and I did not finish my degree. And then I went on to college. And I don't know if basically I say college because I think in the States, college and university is the same thing, right?
Yeah, it was my next question. What's the difference between university and college? Yeah.
Yeah. So college is a lot smaller. Generally, the fees are cheaper. It's a lot smaller, and you are getting a diploma as opposed to a university degree or a master's.
So the
So
smaller atmosphere just spoke more to you. Was that more along your lines? Why'd you leave university?
so that's what I realized after I actually got to college and I was attending the classes. I'm like, okay, this is a smaller environment. I prefer this so much better to university. To answer your question, the reason why I left university is because I didn't feel like I was thriving. Well, there's a few reasons why. I wasn't happy in the town that I was
Okay.
living in. I was very unhappy there. And I got to a point where I just lost all interest in what I was studying, kind of lost hope in what I was studying, or in myself. And I just knew, well, at the time I was like, this isn't for me. And my father, and I know, like, I love him to death, but he was like, you can't take a year off of school. Education is so important.
Yeah.
And I mean, I appreciate where he was coming from, but so I was like, okay, let me try to find something that I'm passionate about to study. And in hindsight, I realized that I convinced myself that fashion management was the next thing that I wanted to pursue. So I went to college for 2 years, and obviously, so I went to fashion school basically. And although I was studying the business side of fashion, there were obviously a lot of fashion designers in school, and I was like, "Whoa, this is just something completely different." It was a really cool experience, and while I was attending classes, as I said earlier, I realized that a smaller environment with like 15 people, 30 max, was more suitable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I graduated after 2 years. So I got a diploma in fashion management. And at the time, I thought, I am going to become a fashion buyer. I'm going to work in a retail store and work my way up, become a fashion buyer, become famous in the fashion industry, meet all of the fashion designers, and graduated. I was working in retail, but I think 2 years or a year and a half into it, I was like, this is not for me. And I guess you could say that was the start of what led to me feeling very unfulfilled in my
How old
life.
were you at this point?
I was 22 years old.
So young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
young.
think about it a lot because when I turned 40, a lot of my passions, the things that really interested me when I was younger, they're kind of coming up again. And I was like, huh, like they weren't celebrated by my parents. So it's like you can pursue that after you get a college degree. So I kind of just chose a major, not going after what really lit me up at the time. And I think it's pretty wild that people are asked to choose majors and paths in life at such a young age before our brain is even completely done forming. Our frontal cortex isn't even completely formed before we're making these life decisions about what we're going to do with the rest of our life. And that's just something that's been coming up for me a lot. And especially raising my children, trying to really honor their interests and let them make choices for themselves about what excites them. So yeah, 22 is extremely young. So at this point, you've dabbled in psychology, you've gone to fashion, you're 22, you're feeling like I've invested this time and this energy. It still doesn't feel great. So what did you do next?
Convinced myself that this is what I'm meant to be doing. And also that's when the numbing with alcohol started. And, I even think back, or like I was reminiscing a bit a few days ago, and I remember I contacted a life coach, but I still didn't, at that time I didn't really know like what a life coach did, or what a life coach was. And I wasn't committed because he asked me if I wanted help, and I said yes, but then I also didn't want to invest my money into this. So again, because deep down inside I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. I'm not feeling okay, but I still didn't know like how to make sense of all of the emotions that I was feeling.
Yeah.
So as I said, I just convinced myself that this is what I want to do. And I worked for another year and a half in retail up until I got to a point where I was like, and actually, I started making so many mistakes on the job
Mm-hmm.
because mentally I had checked out.
Yeah.
Then eventually, I didn't get fired, but eventually I was like, this isn't for me. I quit, and I started like frantically trying to find another job. And I landed this door-to-door sales job, completely oblivious what door-to-door sales actually is. And it was in the middle of winter. And if anyone listening to this is not familiar with Canadian winters, it gets to like -20, -25, or even colder. First, it wasn't even the first day on the job. It was a trial day. And I spent 8 hours knocking from door to door, praying. I was with someone because I was basically shadowing this person, praying that they would just let us inside so that my hands could get warm. I was freezing. And I remember I went home, bawled my eyes out, called my mom, bawled my eyes out, and I was like, I'm not going back. And I didn't go back.
Good. That sounds horrible and miserable. Is this when you ended up at the airline? Because I know that was a big pivotal moment for you is working
So
for an airline.
this was just before.
Okay.
So I never went back to that job. And then I was like, okay, searching for a job is a job in itself. So I need to actually sit down and plan out how I'm going to do this. And then one day I was speaking to a family member, and I was scrolling on Facebook and I saw an ad for my previous employer. Well, what turned out to be my previous employer. And this family member is like, Paige, you should apply for this position. I feel like you would be a good fit. And up until that point, I had never heard of the airline. I never entertained the thought of like being a flight attendant. Yes, traveling the world always excited me, but working for an airline was never something that I would have imagined for myself. And, I mean, it was meant to be because I applied 2 weeks later. I think it was about, yeah, 2 weeks later, they got in touch with me saying that I had been selected to go to an open day. And in this open day, I mean, there were like maybe 50 or 60 other people. And we had to go through different stages of the process. And as each stage went by, I was like, wait, I'm still here. Like, is this real? Because there's some beautiful and like stunning people, and they got sent home. So I'm like,
Is that what they're looking for?
yeah, appearance is very important. And also appearance is very important, and communication skills and teamwork.
Okay.
So there were certain activities that we did, and they basically observed how we communicated among each other and
Okay.
how problem solved, because
Okay.
that happens a lot on an airline, or on board, sorry. And yeah, I made it through. I went to the final interview, was told that I got the job maybe a month later. But even
Uh-huh.
before I got that call that I got the job, my mom and I actually started packing up my apartment in Canada because we both knew that I had landed the job and that I was going to be moving to Dubai. So at 24 years old, I packed my life up in Canada. So again, once again, I'm packing my life up and and this would have been after living in Canada for 10 years and I moved to Dubai.
Okay. So now you're in Dubai, you're working for the airline. You're okay for a little bit, but I know eventually, again, you're not living your real purpose and joy. So can we just kind of, I want to get to, the great part of your story of when you transitioned into the life that you were meant to be and what that went like, but what kind of happened at the airline? Where was the breakdown and what was that moment when you knew? Because this is a scary thing to do. You're like, I'm done. Like, I'm literally walking away from everything to save myself.
Ooh, I feel like
I feel like I just asked you 5 questions in one.
you did, but it's okay. I do feel like I had a couple breakdown points throughout my time in Dubai and working for the airline. But I think it was about, let's say, 4 years. For a good 4 years, I was just partying, drinking, flying, repeat. Um, and totally oblivious and unaware to what was actually going on. And it was
Inside
only
of you.
inside of me, yes.
Yeah,
So
because you were numbing it,
I was numbing it, exactly.
escaping it. Yeah, absolutely.
So I moved to Dubai in 2015. So I would say, the middle of 2015. So 2015, 2016, 2017, I'm living my life, I'm having fun traveling here, there, everywhere, meeting new people, definitely starting to get caught up in the Dubai lifestyle, like a lot of people do. And I would say in 2018 is when I realized something did not feel right within me. But again, continue to numb, continue to escape.
I mean, it's really easy or a hell of a lot easier to numb and to ignore and to stuff. It's when we decide, because I've been there too, I'm going to open this and explore it. Everything starts to really feel like shit for a while. So, yeah, I mean, stuffing it down and numbing out of it is such, in the moment, an easier way, an easier path.
Yeah, and I mean that continued for another year and then in 2019, so just obviously the pandemic hit in 2020, but in 2019 that's when I was having like breakdown after breakdown. I'm like, what is going on? What am I doing with my life? Like, who am I? Did I like there was a lot of shame, there was a lot of guilt because I'm like, I'm at this time I was 28, I think. I'm
Mm-hmm.
28 years old and all I'm doing is excessive drinking and excessive partying. And the worst part is that I didn't see anything wrong with my drinking habits. Yes, I wasn't the type to drink at home by myself, but when I would go out, I would have a hell of a lot of drinks.
Mm-hmm.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 glasses of gin and tonic. And then on top of that, I would want to be shotting tequila. And then the more I drank and the more I got drunk, the more money I would spend. And then I would wake up the next day feeling like shit. What I like to say is it was fun until it no longer became fun. And at the
Yeah.
end of 2019, I had two incidences happen to me while I was under the influence. One of them being I got punched in the face because I was basically at the wrong place at the wrong time. And the second time a wine glass broke in the club and I cut the side of my foot open. And my mom was like, I mean, I thought it was a joke. I mean, I found it funny, right? Because I still hadn't like really sat down and dissected what the hell was going on. But my mom was like, Paige, this you need to stop drinking excessively. Like this is not good. And, as I said, I ignored her.
Did
And then,
you wake up and function the next day after a night of drinking? Or
um,
was it impacting your daily life?
yeah, it was impacting my daily life. It was impacting my mental health. I would have what some people refer to as anxiety. I would
Mm-hmm.
wake up the next day. And the thing is, when I was under the influence, those who didn't know me would think that I'm sober. So because of that, I was like, I can handle my liquor. But then, as I said, there was times when I would completely black out. I was aggressive. I used abusive language. And I'm like, this is not me. Again, my poor mother. One night I was bawling my eyes out on the phone, upset over a guy, upset over the fact that I don't know what I'm doing with my life, sick and tired of feeling unfulfilled, sick and tired of feeling sick and tired of my own bullshit. That was in October of 2019. And in 2020, at the beginning of 2020, I was like, I had reached the point where partying and clubbing wasn't really striking as something that I wanted to do, but I
It
was
kind of,
still.
yeah, it kind of loses its allure. I mean, for me, even having a glass or two if I'm out with girlfriends. Because I used to have like, my glass of wine every night when I come home from work because oh my God, that was just my moment to like relax. And then, a few years ago, especially after the pandemic when I was doing a lot of numbing, I cut out the weekly drink. And then I now drink if I'm with friends, but something happened around 39, 40 where it just doesn't feel as good because I know no matter what, I'm going to not feel great the next day. And that knowledge of what it's doing to you really takes away the pleasure of doing it in the moment. So once you have that mental awareness, it really does shift how much fun you can have with it because you know how you're going to feel.
But I think, and I guess the difference, I don't want to say unfortunately, but the difference in this case with me is it took me another 2 years before I finally gave up alcohol. But that moment to answer, you know, one of your questions, that moment where like this is it, I need to change and it needs to start now was when we were forced into lockdown. And actually, I was in Orlando when I received, we were just about to do a flight back to Dubai when I received an email from my previous airline saying that they are going to ground all aircrafts. And imagine I started to cry. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do, now that we're on the ground? And when I got back to Dubai, I was like, wait, Paige, this is your chance. Like, this is your chance to turn things around. And one morning I woke up and I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I got rid of a lot of my stuff. So I basically did decluttering, started cooking, started exercising, started journaling, started asking myself hard questions, started meditating, started diving into courses that were or topics that were of interest that I basically shoved to the side because all I cared about was, going out to the club. And every single day, and I actually introduced, that was like the first time in 5 years that I introduced a routine in back into my life because as a flight attendant, you don't have a regular routine unless you have discipline on your days off, which I did not. So just reintroducing that routine into my life, I was like, holy shit, this actually feels good.
Yeah.
And that was around the time when I had my spiritual awakening. And I remember like when I was deep into meditation, my grandfather who has passed away, he came to visit me I think I meditated every single day for like 2 or 3 months. Every single evening when I was meditating, he came to visit me. I was like I mean, I didn't understand it at the time, but like in those meditations, I was diving into the depths of my soul and just discovering and peeling back layers within me. And it was like waking me up to how I was living my life. And that's when I
Mm-hmm.
was like, the reason why you are where you currently are in your life is no one else's fault but yours. And I think just admitting that to myself, it allowed me to become aware of other hard conversations I had to have with myself.
You were really starting to peel back the layers of the
Yeah.
onyx. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you still in Dubai?
Yeah, so I spent the lockdown in Dubai.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my question. I had anxiety. Like, did you get stuck in Dubai? Did you guys go home?
To be honest with you, being in Dubai, I mean, I wasn't by myself, meaning without my family, and I did live with two other girls at the time, but being in Dubai was the best place for me to be in my apartment because I didn't have my mom to, I don't know, help me with this or my dad to help me with that.
Right.
Like I had to
You had
be
to
by
rely on
myself.
yourself.
Exactly. Um,
Yeah.
and it really allowed me to like get myself together. And my friends were like, Paige, you sound different, like
Uh-huh.
look different. A lot was changing around that time, and that was like the start of my journey into holistic well-being and spirituality. And I remember one evening I was walking into my bedroom, and it was like I just had this knowing that of why I was put on this earth and what I'm meant to be doing with my life. That's the best way I can explain it. There's no other way that I'm able to
Yeah.
and like everything leading up until that moment actually made sense. And I was like, wow. And I messaged my mom, and I told her, and she's like, Paige, I knew that you were going to tell me this one day. I just had to patiently wait for you to, just to yourself. I was like, okay, fair enough, mom.
Yeah. So what was the knowing? What did you figure out about yourself?
That my purpose here on earth, and I know this word serving is very broad, but like my purpose here on earth is to serve others, to help others. At the time, I didn't really specify like or know that, it was women that I wanted to work with, but
Mm-hmm.
I am here to shine my light and share my truth to help others heal. It was a beautiful moment because I feel like I finally allowed myself to be seen by
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was very powerful because up until that moment, I had been any thoughts or any feelings of wanting to shine my light in that way, I pushed it down because there was a lot of shame that
Mm-hmm.
I went from doing 2 years of psychology to then 2 years in college to then working as a flight attendant. And it was like in that moment, I didn't care. I knew
Yeah.
I had to go on that path to get to where I
Yeah.
was.
So it was, you were able to transition it from shame to, of course, this was my path because this path allowed me to feel what I felt and have these life experiences to now transition into my purpose of helping others. That's beautiful. So, and then you decided to move home, right? After the pandemic?
No,
Oh
so
no, but you're in Barbados now.
no, I'm in Bali.
Oh my God, Paige. Okay, you're in Bali. I knew that too because this morning I told my husband you were in Bali, but then I've been reading Barbados on the page. Okay, you're in Bali now. So how did you get into Bali? How did
Yeah.
that happen?
Okay, so
Gosh, to live in Bali, goodness me.
yeah, it
That's why
is
you're
really
glowing. You're just probably always glowing.
you're glowing too, I must say.
That's the light.
I
It's the
have
light
lights on as
shining on
well.
me.
Okay. Um, okay, so Bali. I spent about 2 years, because we're in 2023 now. So I basically spent 2020 studying to become a life coach, 2020 and 2021. And then in 2022, because we would have taken about, for a good year and a half, there weren't that many flights going on. So I used that time to just continue getting to know myself, to rediscover myself, to dive into coaching and personal development. all of these, as I said, all of these topics that, were of interest to me. And at the beginning of 2022 was when I hit another very low point in my life because I was no longer happy in my job. But there was a lot of fear to leave a full-time paying job for a business that is not where it should be in the eyes of mainstream.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pressure. It was like an internal battle. Part of me wanted to leave. The other part was like, who the hell do you think you are? Like, you need to make money.
Yeah.
So I basically dug myself in a very dark hole. I actually stopped coaching for a while. I basically put everything on pause. And I think for 4 months, I was just very dark, or it was very dark. I was crying a lot. I had a lot of anxiety. I was like, what the hell am I doing with my life? I was unhappy in Dubai. I just was not happy at all.
Yeah.
And I had a coaching call I was in a mentorship community, and I had a coaching call with the coach who runs the mentorship community. And because I went on that call and I was like, I need to get back into my business. And she's like, no, honey, you need to do some self-love work. So she basically like gave me or instructed me to take 7 days of pouring love into myself. And I guess you could say that was like what started my journey of self-love, but then also that allowed me to start coping with this job that I no longer related to, this job that was no longer fulfilling. And at the same time, I acknowledged that, I couldn't leave yet. So this is what I'm going to do to help myself.
Yeah.
But like I, did a lot of self-love work. I started moving my body, like exercising, spending time in nature, although in Dubai, there's not much nature there. And I think it was August of last year, I got to a point where I was like, I need out. I can't do this anymore. I'm going like what felt like mentally insane. And I was listening to a podcast episode, and she's an author. She was writing a book, and she said that she took 1 month off, came to Bali to write the book. So then I thought to myself, oh wow, Bali. Maybe I can do that too. Take 1 month off, come to Bali, calm my nervous system, figure out what I want to do with my life, and then go back. But then I was like, but what the hell? It doesn't make sense that you come here to then go back to that job. Also, I asked my manager, and he said no. So one day I was like, you know what? Everything that I want, or at the time was craving in my life, which was to be around nature, to be around like-minded people, to deepen my, spirituality, to deepen my healing journey, or to heal myself, I should say. That's what I can get here. But again, I hadn't really been to Bali on holiday to know if it could actually offer me what I wanted. So I know this has been a very long answer, sorry, but like to actually answer your question, I just had like an inner knowing in my heart that this is where I'm meant to be. And when I finally made the decision to leave, to quit my job, everything just started falling into place. And I'm gonna tell you a really cool thing that happened. I say cool, but I was in New York on a layover, and one of the many times when I was tempted to send in my resignation letter to my manager. So this would have been in September. And I resigned. I handed in my resignation on October 3rd. Okay. So just remember October 3rd. So we're in September, and I am typing up this message to send to my manager with the intention of resigning in September. Obviously, I never send that. that email. And then time goes by, and then I'm in Mexico when I literally made the decision that I'm resigning. So I hadn't pulled up the note with the email, the resignation letter, sorry. And when I opened it, sorry, I hadn't pulled it up since I pulled it up back in September. And we're now in the beginning or the end of September, okay? I open up the note and I see the exact date that I told myself that I wanted to resign. But I had written that date a month prior, and I was like, yeah, this is like
this is it.
Yeah, this is it. And yeah, I had a month, I gave a month's notice, 30 days notice, and I just started sorting out my visa, finding a place to stay. And again, I didn't know if I would get what I wanted from Bali or by being in Bali, but I just knew that in order to be able to live a life of freedom, I needed to take that risk. And it didn't actually hit me what I was doing, because things started unfolding pretty quickly. And, I was obviously still flying. Then I had to pack my entire life up in Dubai, trying to say goodbye to friends, trying to organize my visa here. It didn't hit me until I approached the gate in Dubai that said the airport code of Bali, DPS, that I broke down, fell into the chair, and I just started hyperventilating. Because I think in that moment, that's when it hit me that I've actually made the decision to pack up my life. First of all,
So
I quit
this
my
was
job.
when you were boarding the plane to leave. Did
Yeah.
you feel pressure? Like, I know I need to leave. I know this is the choice I need to make, but did you feel pressure that I really want this to work, for these knowings to have made sense and to have been correct? Or did you just have unwavering faith that this could not go any other direction but great?
I love that question. But yeah, I had unwavering faith that this is what I meant to be doing. However, when I've been in Bali for 9 months, and there's been some tough moments, and in those tough moments, I feel like I was like, this has to work. This has to work. I mean, it's even though the moments were tough, I know that it was still, things are still working out for me. But yeah, unwavering faith, and something that I was not able to explain to many people or to anyone outside of saying I followed my heart to come here. Like, people like, why did you come to Bali? Or what made you
Yeah.
come to Bali? I
Did you
chose to
know, do
follow.
you know anybody?
I knew a couple people, but I didn't have any friends here.
Yeah. I mean, that's an ultimate badass move, to just pick up your life and follow your heart. I mean, I have actually so many thoughts, too many to get on this podcast, but I think it's so, when you've created a life for yourself where you're established and it's supporting you, or it's supporting your family, or it's what you think you should be doing or you've been told you should be doing, it's so hard to walk away no matter what the feelings are. But to get to the point where you're just like, I have to make this change, and to truly trust not only yourself, but the universe and the bigger plan, and to do it, is such a testament to having so much trust and faith. But it's such a big, beautiful move that I know many people desire that, courage
Yeah.
to do it, because I really do think for the most part, we all live our days shoulding on ourselves. We're doing what we should be doing, or what others say we should be doing, or what we feel we should be doing, instead of following truly our heart. So, I mean, I thank you for sharing your story. And I'm sure someone's going to listen and be like, maybe I should go to Bali. Or maybe I should, really make that big decision that I can't get out of my mind, but in my head, it's always pushed away because it's too scary. I also can relate to you a lot, Paige, in wanting to go after a certain goal. Like even my social media right now, I've stepped away from my social media with coaching. And I haven't made a big announcement about it, and I haven't talked big about it, but there was a lot that kind of happened in my life a couple months ago that I was kind of in, I think, or I am in the stage where you were, where you kind of had to stop a lot of what you were doing and go inward. Makes me teary, but to go inward so that you can then come back better, stronger, but honestly, just more at peace to know how you want to progress in next steps in whatever aspect of your life you're focusing on. So hearing that for me just feels like a warm blanket and a hug to know that somebody else took those moments for themselves too, and it didn't end everything, but they were able to come back from it. Because when you decide to stop something, you're worried that's it, right? So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for staying up so damn late tonight. I hope you get a really good night's sleep as I go have my next cup of coffee. And your information will be in the show notes of this podcast. So people are free to reach out to you for coaching.
Thank you so much, Jessie. And thank you for sharing that. And I just want to say to you is, or what I want to say to you is that it's very brave taking a step back, because I feel like we, as you said, we hold on so tight to things, and like we feel like we need to push through, but actually allowing yourself to take a step back and essentially entering into the unknown is a very brave thing to do. So I just want to say, like, I see you and I'm sending you so much love, and you will get through this.
Yeah, I will. And I think I have a business coach, and I told her, I was like, I need to stop everything right now. I can't do anything. And she goes, of course, you do what you need to do, and you'll have an even new perspective and a new life lesson that hopefully will guide me in helping others in more ways than I even knew, I could. But yes, definitely digging deep internally right now and figuring a lot out and taking what life has to throw at me. But it is brave to stop. And I appreciate you using that word. And I appreciate you sharing your story, because that allows other people, including me, to kind of take that big, deep breath and be like, she did it too. Thank you so much, Paige.
Thank you so much, Jessie.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of that. I really meant everything that I said.
Yeah, it was thank you as well. I feel like, I mean, I have put myself out there intentionally, and I've to go on podcasts. So I've done like 3 podcast interviews in the past like 2.5 weeks, and
Oh, cool.
this was just so, I just love how, so it kind of like allowed me to share my story, but then I also entered this podcast not feeling afraid or worried that I would like say the wrong thing, because that's something that I'm like battling right now, not knowing how to or not feeling like I can articulate myself well. But yeah, I just feel like you held such great space, and
Thank you.
I forgot that it was a podcast interview, and I think that's very important.
Well, I appreciate that, because with everything that's kind of gone on with me, I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but like even everything with Yes Supply, I just had to, I feel like, did I do that for nothing? Did I invest all that money that they're still charging me for nothing? Because I couldn't go on to figure out. So I stopped my social media and trying to grow that. I stopped trying to gain clients, but something in me didn't want to stop the podcast. But then I definitely have been wrestling with myself and with like, what am I even doing with this podcast? Like, is it really worth it? Because a podcast, until, I mean, if you're able to make it something, it costs me money, right? Like I pay somebody to edit it and do this, so I'm not making money on it, but it spends. And then I've really wrestled with like, am I being silly doing this podcast? But I haven't had that inner knowledge of like stopping. There's something in me that's like, just keep going. So hearing you say that is really validating and I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I think because I'm just trying to think back to when I was in the middle of the storm. It felt like, no one understood, like you would never see the light at the end of the tunnel. But I think it's really important and to like just lean into self-love, lean into the things that can bring you a little ounce of joy in what may seem like chaos, if that
I'm
makes
actually
sense.
doing that this weekend. So pre-pandemic, because my mind never stops. I just took up cookie decorating for fun because it's super meditative. And we moved in the middle of the pandemic, and I left all my supplies at the old house, and they're just gone. So a week ago, I purchased things, and they just arrived. And this weekend, I'm going to try to start doing cookie decorating again. So I'm trying to bring in those little outlets where I can just really get into that like meditative zone in state. My kids, I know, want to do it with me, and I want to be like, this is not for you. Get away. Like, don't talk to me right now. But yeah, I'm trying to do the little things that make me joy because I have for so long been pushing on like what out of fear, like what I should be doing with my business, what I should be doing outside of my business. What if this happens? What if this happens? And I'm trying so hard to just not worry about it. But you still like the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm just like, am I in a cave or is there actually a tunnel with a light at the end? It'll work itself out. I think this is my ultimate like figuring out how to do the self-love and the surrendering all in one. I think I'm just needing to do that now. And that's what the time's for. But this has been great. So thank you.
Really happy. When I saw you post, I was like, yes, I'm gonna put myself out there. And also because obviously we didn't get to connect in any of the
I know.
breakout rooms. So I was like, okay, now I can connect with her.
I was
Although
so
I
happy
do
when I saw
feel
your
like,
name come.
oh, I do
Yeah.
feel like I did get to know you just from like because I know that you did speak up a lot, which I appreciated. So I was like, okay, I feel like I do know her, but we never got to like directly speak. So yeah, this is nice as
Yeah,
well.
I know it's wild how those breakout rooms worked. Okay, well, I'm gonna go feed my kids breakfast and you go to bed, but thank you so much. And I hope we keep in touch.
All
Okay,
right. Beautiful day, and I'm sending you lots of love right now.
thanks, Paige. I appreciate it. Lots of love to you too.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.